So the question I have you lost your cool lately? Or are you concerned about losing your cool, especially with the holidays that are coming up? Well, I'm going to give you some tips and some resources that you hopefully will find helpful. This is Eddie with a Mindful Emergence, where Margaret and I offer simple steps you can use to access your inner resources using mindfulness, movement, and breathing practices. And if you want to find out more about what we do, go to a mindfulemergence.com. That's a mindfulemergence.com. I'll put the link in with the description to this video. And at our website, you can learn more about what we do. We've got free tools on how to not lose your cool that you can access easily. And also, if you find that what we do is of interest to you, you can schedule a free consultation. So here we are in early November as I record this video, and already many of us are thinking about Thanksgiving, about Christmas. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? How is this going to work out? Am I going to have money to do this? When I show up at a holiday, is Uncle Bob going to get drunk and be crazy? And, for people in early recovery, especially, it's very, very stressful in many cases. And often people struggle to not relapse during this time. So there are so many stresses and difficulties this time of year. So what can we do? Well, here's a few tips. And by the way, I invite you in the comments with this video to point out things that you do that you find helpful. But here are some ideas that I want to offer. The first one is walk away from a situation if you can. So I had a situation very recently where I was at a meeting, and this was a gathering of people who are using plant medicines and psychedelics intentionally. And the meeting dealt with preparation and integration and how to do this. It's a meeting I go to with some regularity that's really, really good. And a young man showed up for the first time, and from my point of view, basically hijacked the meeting. He took it over. I thought that from, again, my point of view, he was being very disrespectful and arrogant. And it really got underneath my skin. And I'm sitting there with Margaret, and she's looking at me, and she's realizing Eddie's about ready to say something that probably isn't a good idea. It just really triggered me. And, I was not like Mr. Meditation, Mr. Yoga, all cool at all. Got into my shadow side, I guess. And she looked at me and she said, "You need to get out of here." She knows me well. So I knew she was right because it was just a matter of time I was going to say something that would have been inappropriate. So I leaned over and I said, I'm going to take off. We had driven there. I said, I'll be back to pick you up towards the end of the meeting. And I left. And that was the smart thing to do because I knew that's what I needed to do. Now, I'm going to offer some additional tips that maybe if I had done these, I could have stayed and been okay. But I was so triggered, I needed to get out of there. So in some situations, you can walk away, you can drive away, and that's the right decision to make. Another thing you could do, especially if you're not in a position to walk or drive away, is to breathe. You can take what I call a sacred breath. And maybe in that exhale, you can bring yourself down into the parasympathetic nervous system and calm yourself down. And there are other types of breathing techniques you can use. Some of you may have heard of 4-square breathing, where you inhale for 4 breaths, pause for 4 breaths, exhale for 4 breaths, pause. So you can do this, and that helps regulate the nervous system. At the very least, it distracts us from what's been getting underneath our skin. So there are different breathing techniques. Maybe you have some others that you have found that are really helpful. Another thing you can do is move your body. So one thing you could do is just ground yourself, just pressing your feet into the floor, feeling yourself connected to a chair. This can help calm you, center you, or maybe just doing some simple movements like stretching and so on can be very helpful. Also, cross body movements like tapping. By the way, I'm putting links to another video that I offered on how I distract myself in a panic attack. So these tips are applicable to any kind of situation where you're triggered in any way, whether it's a panic attack or anger. So I'm putting that link in there. In fact, you can check out, there are a lot of other videos on our YouTube channel that I think you might find helpful. So that's one thing you can do. And of course, if you have a yoga practice or any other kind of mind body practice like Tai Chi or Qigong, by maintaining a regular practice like that, it might help us prepare for situations like this where we can remember how to move our body in a conscious way to handle that kind of stress. Another thing we can do is maintain a regular meditation practice, which again will help remind us to notice our thoughts, realize where our mind is going, or you can pray. You know, prayer isn't really my thing. For a lot of people, though, it's a tremendous go-to strategy. So whatever prayer, whether it's a serenity prayer or something else, can be very, very helpful. Another thing you can do is if you're in a situation where there's a conversation going on, make a conscious effort to lower your voice. Sometimes it's not what we say, it's how we say it. So if we can just be calm and lower our voice, sometimes that can really change the effect of what we're going to say in that conversation. Another is a practice called refuse and replace, where you notice your thought and replace it with an opposite thought. I'm going to put a link in the description on a short video that Margaret did talking about that. So you can listen to that. She explains how that works very, very well. And the last thing I'm going to offer, not that it's the last thing that we could do, but I'm just going through a list of a few things, is to have compassion for the other person. So, for example, in this situation, I could have looked at this young man and realized that this is a young man who is just trying to get through life in the best way he can. And for whatever reason, he's behaving that way, and recognize that I have also done that, and just try to understand that sometimes we do things that are maybe not in the best interest, but to open up my heart to him and have compassion for his difficulties, his suffering, and find that common ground with him. So, compassion is a tremendous, tremendous practice. So, those are some. Or another thing is that just occurred to me is compassion for myself. You know, the fact that I'm struggling and that this is just part of being human, and then to practice self-care in whatever way it was. And in that particular case, self-care was removing myself from the situation before I did any harm to himself or anyone else in the group or myself by verbally speaking up in an unskillful way. So those are just a few tips that you might use. Again, make comments about things that you've used that have been helpful. If you're on our YouTube channel, go and check out other things that we have offered, other talks in the self-care section. And I hope that's helpful. If you like this video and you want to hear more videos, I upload twice a week. You can subscribe, hit that bell so you get notifications. And of course, we love it when people like our videos. And as I mentioned before, comments are wonderful. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.